Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video, which is going to be a first impression and demo of the brand new Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 eyeshadow palette. I purchased the palette myself on launch day, so I will share my experience with that as well as a demo of how I created this eye look. It was my first time using the palette today, so this is more of just a first impression. However, I will share swatches and give you my initial thoughts on the palette. Before we get into all that, if you're new to my channel, I'm Yori. Thank you for clicking on my video. I hope you'll enjoy it and consider subscribing for 3 brand new videos every single week. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into the video. I purchased my palette on launch day, which was Friday, October 25th. Today is Thursday, October 31st on the day I'm filming this video, and I just received the palette. I'm looking at my invoice. The palette retailed for $48. The shipping fee was $11.95, which I did pay for expedited shipping, and I did see that it was shipped USPS priority, so that's where the shipping cost went in. And then there's various state taxes, so the total amount I paid for my palette was $66.55. I paid for it using PayPal, and when the transaction went through, I actually got an email message back from Tati Beauty before I got a confirmation suggesting that I had contacted customer service, but I hadn't really. And I realized later that what happened was that the PayPal receipts or the PayPal payments were being sent to customer service at Tati Beauty, and so that was sort of the default reply back that you get when you send a message to a company just to acknowledge that they have received it. So that was a little bit confusing, but I went on Twitter and I was seeing that other people were seeing the same thing when they paid with PayPal, and a couple of hours later I did eventually receive my notification. I got my shipping notice a couple of days ago, and like I said, the palette arrived today. I shared my unboxing on Instagram. I leave my Instagram handles linked down below in case you want to follow me over there. It came very securely packaged in a beautiful box with her photo on it. The packaging was really safe and secure, and my palette arrived unharmed. This is what the palette looks like. It's inside a sleeve. Mine is getting dirty already because the sleeve is a soft matte finish. On the back side of the palette, you have information that it's cruelty-free, vegan, and the ingredients of each of the different shadows. So not necessarily every metallic is going to be manufactured exactly the same. It doesn't show where the palette is made, but I think she's using the same lab as ColourPop, and so that would be made in the United States. On the front, you get information about the quantities that you're getting. So the glitters are going to be 0.75 grams of each of them, and then all of the other finishes you're getting a full gram, which is a good amount of product. When you slide the palette, this is what it looks like. The outside packaging is very monochromatic, but this palette has the brand name on the front, kind of in copper finish, and over here as well. And then volume 1 is more in a chrome kind of finish, which is an interesting touch on mixed metals, which I don't know if it was intentional, but it quite goes with the vibe of the palette because that's really the feel that I get. So when you open it up, you have a very nice full-size mirror that spans the entire top of the palette. You are able to fold it around completely, but there is a little bit of resistance, so that's something that's going to sort of ease into it if you prefer to use your palette this way. Typically, I just lay my palettes flat and I use them that way, so it doesn't really matter to me if it folds back. I was trying to use the mirror during my demo, and it's really heavy. It doesn't prop up by itself, as nice as it is. It's really heavy, so please excuse my cat. She just likes to talk when she's walking around. So I found that when I was applying my makeup, it was really heavy and I was getting really tired. So typically I just use a separate mirror, like my Simple Human mirror, and I work with the palette flat. There was a protective sheet to protect your shadows, and here's what the inside of the palette looks like. So this is what I mean about it being mixed metals. You have like sort of chrome metallics, coppery metallics, neutral metallics, and then you have this one, which is the only real pop of color in the palette, which is a little bit more on the pink side. So you have a total of 24 different shades, 4 different textures, and I really like the way that she organized it. Let me turn this the right side up. So each column is a specific color story with the names written along the bottom, and then each specific row is a different finish where you have matte, sequin, metallic, and glitter. I'll go ahead and show you how I swatch the palette while I continue to speak on it. When I was swatching, I did notice the mattes swatch beautifully. They're really soft and buttery to the touch. Beautiful, beautiful pigmented swatches. The sequin shades are interesting because they have micro shimmer embedded in the shadow itself, and that was something I was commenting that a lot of reviewers will frequently complain when there's a matte shadow that has has glitter in it. Typically, that's not something that we like because the glitter just falls out. It makes a mess and the shadow eventually doesn't really look on the eye the way that it looks in the pan. So I was really curious when she added a formula kind of like that, and after working with it, I realized that the shimmers are really finely milled, and so they stay within the powder of the shadow itself, and it does show up on your eyes when you apply it. I did find that those work a lot better when applied with your fingertips rather than a brush for the maximum shimmer payoff. And also when you're swatching them, they kind of look like the night sky in each respective color. Like if you're looking up at the sky and there's little stars, you know, faint stars that you can see, that's kind of the finish that you get with the sequins. Interestingly, when I was swatching, the metallics were the ones that impressed me the least because they're not that bold emollient metallic that I really prefer, similar to Colored Rain or Juvia's Place or Give Me Glow Cosmetics. Those metallics are really emollient, really thick, but super vibrant. These were not swatching like that. They swatched a lot more sheer in nature, but I did find that when applied to the eye, they're very smooth. So if you have more mature eyelids, kind of like I do, they are going to be flattering metallics and ones that you can really wear on the everyday without it being too much or too foiled. You can apply it damp and then you get slightly more intensity, but again, it's not going to be anything that's over the top, which I think is great because she gives you the option to go over the top with these pressed glitters. Another interesting formula that I was wondering, like, why would she include this formula when, again, I see a lot of reviewers, herself included, when you see pressed glitters in a palette, usually people don't like them. They're messy, they're not considered eye safe, which she did mention that this palette, I think it's labeled a pressed powder palette, so it's not really labeled an eyeshadow palette, and she does have a couple of shadows listed as not safe for the immediate eye area and that it does include the glitters. In her reveal video, she was talking about the glitters being cosmetic grade, but again, label guidelines prevent you from saying that they're safe for the eye area. I did apply them on the eye area and I haven't experienced any problems yet, but again, this is just my first time using the palette. So with the glitter formula, it was really interesting to use. When you swatch it, you'll find that that's the only one that I swatched kind of in a different style where I would press and drag to really get the payoff. That's exactly how I applied it to my eyes with my fingertips, and this formula impressed me. I was expecting to be most irritated by the glitters, actually, and now in hindsight, I would say that that's actually my favorite formula. The mattes are beautiful, but I have beautiful mattes. I have beautiful mattes from Natasha Denona, from Viseart, from Pat McGrath. So I already have really nice matte formulas, but these are really up there along with that kind of eyeshadow quality. They're a little bit more powdery. Not as powdery as, for example, Dose of Colors or Anastasia, but they are definitely more powdery than Pat McGrath or Natasha Denona. So somewhere in between, you can definitely work with them, tap off the excess off your brush, and you're good to go. So beautiful mattes. The sequin shades I found are going to be shades that you'll probably wear with a single eyeshadow look for the maximum impact, in my opinion, because it gives you a very subtle shimmer to your eye. It's visible, but it's not going to be the powerhouse that you're seeing on my eyes right now, which is obviously the glitters. So that's just something to think about. I already spoke about the metallics, but these glitters, this is like New Year's Eve in a palette. I would buy a palette full of these. There's something about the binder that, first of all, they're staying in the palette just fine, but when you pick it up with your fingertips and you apply it to your eye, it actually transfers to your eye. It adheres really nicely. I'm not having issues with creasing. It takes me forever to do my makeup, so I've actually been filming for about 3 hours just because I was doing the swatches, the unboxing, doing my makeup, doing my hair, all kinds of stuff. So it takes me a while. It's been 3 hours and the eyeshadow is not creasing and it looks so beautiful. I am feeling so glam right now, which is interesting for me because usually for me, when I want to get really glam, I throw on color, lots of color, blue, purple, whatever color may be, but I love playing with color. So when I first saw the palette teased, I was like, oh, well, I don't really need that. But then I think I saw a video by someone she sent the palette to. Her name was Melissa Q. I will link her video down below, but she's a smaller YouTuber who received the palette, and she was very thorough in her review of it actually, and she kind of made me want to try it, and I went ahead and I ordered it a couple of hours after launch. I'm so glad I did. For $48, you're getting a lot of product here, and it is basic, especially for a color lover like myself. I have these shades 20-30 times over in my collection, but it's the finishes that makes it special, and I think that she was very true to her brand. She's a neutral lover. She loves neutral makeup, but neutral glam makeup, and this achieves exactly that. So I think it's really on brand for her, and I guess I have to say it's basic but unique. Unique in the way that she did it with the different textures in the same color family. That's not something that you see too often, and I just thought it was really well done. The palette is listed as volume 1, so that is a threat of many more volumes to come. And I say threat because, you know, that whole Norvina palette thing, my goodness, we got volume 1, 2, and 3 in like a matter of a month. That was a lot. So I'm sure there's gonna be more volumes of this coming out. She alluded to that herself in her video, and I have to say I'm looking really forward to it. Really forward to it. I think it's a really interesting formula. I enjoyed playing with the textures. I love the glitters. I absolutely love the glitters. I'm shocked. This one is really interesting. It has multifaceted, like more rainbow glitters. The others are a little bit more monochromatic, but they're so easy to use, and man, do they pack a punch. So I feel kind of bad when you're going to see me applying the eyeshadows. It's my first impression, and you know, it's a little bit of trial and error when working with formulas with which you're not familiar, which I wasn't. So I was trying with my fingers, I was trying layering different colors. At one point my look started to turn muddy, but I think I was definitely able to salvage it, and the eye that I did on camera was this eye. When I repeated everything on my other eye, I did it so quickly because I knew exactly what I was going for, and I feel that as time goes forward and I continue to use the palette, it's gonna be a lot better, and I can't wait to dip into these shades as well. I just wanted to stay true and do something a little bit more neutral, and like I said, usually glam for me means color, but this is nice too. I'm really feeling really glam right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut away to my application of the eyeshadows so that you can see kind of how they perform, how they apply. And again, please keep in mind that was my first impression. Now that I've used the palette and I recreated the look on the other side, I have a much better idea of how the shades perform. So let's go ahead and cut to the demo part of the video, and I will be back with my final thoughts at the end. Since I'm working with a formula that's new and relatively unfamiliar to me, I'm going to do my eyes first. This eye has a tendency to get very watery and ruin my eyeshadow, so I'm going to do this eye on camera and I'll do the other one off camera. I primed my eye with the Anastasia eyeshadow base and I didn't set it. I've been working with the primer for a while, so I kind of know how it works best for me. I'm not sure how I'm going to create the eye look, but I think I want to do something relatively neutral, so I'm going to stick to the Soothe section as well as the Ritual section. I think that'll give me a very nice neutral look and give me an opportunity to play with all the different textures. I'm going to go into the shade Soothe first, and I'm using a Kylie Cosmetics number 15. I want to show you as I dip into the pan, there's quite a lot of kick up, so probably tapping off the excess is going to be a good idea, and you probably want to dip into the pan quite softly. So I want to use this as a first transition, and I'm going in really softly because I'm not sure how pigmented the eyeshadow will be. And as a transition, it's a nice transition, but a little bit darker than I typically go for. So I want to go in really lightly at first just to see how it's going to apply. This is my second dip of the brush, and I went in a little more aggressively this time. I mean, I didn't dip in hard by any means, but it was a little bit more than the first time around. So right now I'm working with the mattes. When I swatch the mattes, they swatch so beautifully, really beautifully, creamy, even, just very nice pigmentation, and you will have seen the swatches, so you'll know what I'm talking about at this point. So that blended out very nicely and evenly. It's very smooth and the edges are very diffused, which I like, because then you don't have to go in with so many shadows. You can kind of just diffuse the color outward and it gives you a really nice even blend. So I like the way that's looking, and I'm just going to re-intensify it just a little bit in the crease area. So I'm getting the impression that these are shadows that you can build up, which is nice because it makes them a little bit easier to work with than if you have full-on pigmentation right away. So I'm using windshield washer motions and slight circular motions as well as I blend in the shadow. I'm going to use an Esom S33 brush and the shade Ritual. I'm using the matte finish again, and I'm going to deepen out the outer V as well as the crease with this shade. So I'm going to first apply it in the outer V of my eye, and once the color is deposited, then I'll blend inward. To be honest, the finish or texture that intrigues me the most is going to be the sequin, because that's supposed to be like a new type of texture, and to be honest, it reminds me a lot of just a matte with glitter in it, which typically any reviewer will complain about those shades, like why does a matte have shimmer in it? Usually the shimmer just kind of blends away. Once you tap off your brush, you really can't see the shimmer anymore, so I'm curious to see how those are going to actually apply, if the shimmer is going to stay. I love how diffused the look is coming out. It looks very diffused and well blended, and I just kind of go back and forth between the two brushes I was using to make sure that the shadows blend into each other. I'm really liking the way that looks. I'm going to try one of the sequin shades. I think I'm going to try the one in Soothe, and I'm going to try to apply it with a brush first. I'm honestly not sure how this is going to go. I'm going to use a MAC 239, and I dipped into the palette. I just dipped into the palette, and I want you to see how much powder there is in the Soothe shade. I also can't really see the shimmers on the brush, so I'm just going to try to pat. So I'm using patting motions to lay this color down. Now I'm looking on camera to see how this shade is translating, and on camera it looks pretty much matte. I don't think you're picking up the shimmer in the color. In the mirror, I can see the shimmers, but they're very, very subtle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pat this shade on with my finger, because when I swatched, I could definitely see the shimmers. I can see the shimmers on the tip of my finger. I'm just going to pat. So I feel that that actually yields a much better texture in terms of being true to what you see in the pan and being able to actually see those shimmers. I'm not very good at working with my fingertips because of my nails, so I do feel that I lost a little bit of intensity in the outer corner. So I'm going to go back in with Ritual to make sure I recover that. And I'm trying not to blend too close to where the original Soothe sequin shade is, so that I don't blend away any of those shimmers. So let's try one of the metallics. When I was swatching, the metallics were the ones that impressed me the least, to be honest, and it's just because they're not that impactful. I like metallics like from Colored Rain, from Juvia's Place, from Give Me Glow, that are just molten metal pretty much. These are a lot more subtle, I would say. I'm going to apply it with a MAC 242, and I'm going to go into the inner corner. By the way, this is in the Soothe section, and I'm just going to go on the inner corner. It picks up really nicely on the brush. You could, of course, spray your brush a little bit to intensify the metallic nature, but I want to see what the palette can do as is. So I think you can see there the difference in texture with the metallic shade. It's very pretty. It definitely looks distinctive. So what I would like to do is, since that one looks a little bit lighter, I'm going to actually use the sequin shade from the Ritual, and I'm going to apply that with my fingertip, kind of more on the outside, so that there's a little bit of a gradient. I'm effectively covering up the other one. So now you can actually see where the original metallic is a little bit better. So I'm gonna bring the metallic in further. I am getting a little bit of fallout with this shade. I don't know if you can see, but I have fallout here. Again, I'm using a metallic shadow completely dry, so that's okay. I'm actually more impressed with the metallic shadow and less so with the sequin, because I think I just keep losing the intensity as I work around it. So maybe that's one of the types of textures that you want to apply and then just leave it. I'm going to use the shade Aura here, and I'm going to highlight my inner corner with that. I'm using an Esom T09. That actually brightens the inner corner quite a bit. I want to smoke out the lash line, so I'm going to use the Memory shade, which is the black in the palette. I'm using a Refer 03 brush for this, and I'm just lightly tapping, and I'm going to work that along my lashes for a little bit of definition. And then I'm going to soften the edge. So I've darkened the eye look quite a bit. I think I started getting a little bit muddy out here in the outer corner when I started fiddling around with the sequin shades. So I'm just going to put down the glitter. I'm trying to decide which one I want to use. I think that to brighten everything up, I'm going to go into Soothe, which is that one right there. So I'm just dipping my hands in and I'm going to pat and drag. This is adhering so easily. Oh my goodness. Wow. That just took it to a whole other level. Okay, so typically pressed glitters are really an annoying formula to work with, but that's something really, really stunning. I haven't worked with a pressed glitter like that. I think I'm gonna leave the eye look here for now. I'm gonna finish the rest of my face makeup, do the other eye off camera, and we'll be back to chat a little bit more about the textures. So I wanted to pop back. I recreated the eye look on this side and I didn't layer the sequin shade. I just used Ritual and I used it all over after I applied all of the other colors, and it applies much better. That way you can really see the shimmers. I don't want you to be distracted by this eye, but if I turn my head, you can see that there are slight amounts of shimmer there. I think these sequin shades would be much better used sort of as an all-over color for daytime for just a tiny bit of sophisticated sparkle, but I think it's pretty in and of itself. I wouldn't do the look necessarily like this with one of the sequin shades, but I just wanted to show you what it would look like so that I could be a little bit fair in my assessment of that shade, since I think my thoughts of it being matte with glitter in it is, it's true, that is what they are, but the shimmers are really finely milled, and I think that they adhere and stay within the body of the shadow itself a little bit better than some of the other shadows with glitters that you may have experienced in the past. So there's something unique about it. So now I'm really gonna finish everything and I will be back to work on the lower lash line. Okay, so I fixed my hair and I finished this lower lash line. The only thing I really did was I added a little bit of black eyeliner on the top lash line. I did use a pair of false lashes, and for the lower lash line, we'll finish it right now. I did go into Soothe Metallic again, and I applied that with a damp brush since I originally experienced a little bit of fallout when working with those shades. So I'm just gonna apply that on the inner part of the lower lash line. After that, I smoked out the lower lash line, first with Soothe and then with Ritual in the matte finish. And I used that Esom S33 brush. So I started with the lighter shade and I just applied that on the lower lash line. And I'm not really being too careful here. With the same brush, I go into the darker shade, but I focus that more on the outer part of my eye. And with the rougher pencil brush, I apply a little bit of the black shadow really close to the lower lash line and connect it to the top. And a little bit of lower lash mascara finishes off the look. And this is your finished look. It took us a little while to get here, but I had really a lot of fun experimenting with the new formula. So let me know what you thought of the look I created and the process. And if you've tried out the palette, I would love to know what you're thinking about it. So I'm gonna zoom out and share my final thoughts. So what do you guys think? I know that I was a little bit back and forth during the demo, and like the sequin shade made me pause a little bit, but now I know that those are shades I'm gonna wear as a one eyeshadow look, maybe blending it out with the corresponding matte texture for an everyday kind of look. I'm gonna continue using the palette. I will definitely wear it for work tomorrow and I will report back on it. I just wanted to share my initial impression because I'm sure that YouTube is gonna be flooded with videos about this palette. I'm really glad I tried it out. I really like it. And you know, she's sold out right now, but she is going to do a limited restock prior to the holidays. I think she's doing a pre-sale right now for December where you have guaranteed shipping before December 15th, and then any restock after that won't happen until after the new year. So if you're interested and you're a neutral lover, this is really good. I can see you getting your New Year's Eve kind of look out of this palette, and I think that's what I'm going to reserve it for. Just those glitters and special occasions, maybe stage makeup. I don't know. I really love the way my makeup turned out today. It's a little different for me, but I had a lot of fun. So congratulations congratulations to her. I have to say, the palette, I have to give it 2 thumbs up. I really like it. If you picked it up, I would love to hear your thoughts on the palette. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, because that might help someone else who's considering to purchase the palette, along with all the other reviews that are going to be here on YouTube. But if you were waiting for my opinion, I really like it. I think it's beautiful. So again, congratulations to Tati. She's never going to see this video, but I've been subscribed to her for a good long time, and she's taught probably a lot of us a lot about makeup. So I think that it's really fitting that she would start her brand with something very basic, yet easy to use, yet with the option to do something a little bit more creative with all the textures. That's it for my opinion for the palette right now. I will continue to use it. Usually I do like haul follow-ups or things like that, so look forward for more information on the palette from me as well. If you would like to see any other looks or anything else I missed, let me know in the comment section down below as well. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are. Thank you for joining me today, and if you did enjoy the video or find it helpful, please don't forget that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Other than that, I hope you're doing really well wherever you are, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon on my next one. Bye-bye.